the most powerful empire in human history, didn't lose to an enemy army. It didn't fall to barbarians. It didn't fall to plague. It didn't fall to economic collapse. It fell because Romans stopped having babies, and this wasn't a sudden catastrophe. This was a slow, invisible collapse happening over 300 years. The Roman Empire at its peak controlled 70 million people. By the end, it could barely fill its armies. So today we go back to the dinner tables of Rome, back to the bedrooms, back to the laws that tried to force people to have children, and we answer the question nobody taught you in school: how does a civilization literally choose to disappear? Stay with me, because the answer will change how you see the world today. Rome was once so full of life that having many children was considered a man's greatest honor. In the early Roman Republic around 500 BC, family was everything. A Roman man with many sons was celebrated. He got tax breaks. He got political power. He got respect. A Roman woman's entire identity was tied to motherhood. She was sculpted, celebrated, written into history. Rome built itself on this foundation: strong families, strong soldiers, strong empire. But then something shifted. Around 200 BC, Rome started winning big. They conquered Greece, Carthage, Egypt. The Mediterranean became a Roman lake, and with conquest came money. Unimaginable amounts of money. Slaves flooded Rome by the millions. Roman citizens no longer had to work. Rich Romans moved into massive houses, ate exotic foods, threw parties that lasted for days, and children suddenly became inconvenient. Children cost money. Children cost time. Children interrupted the good life Romans had built for themselves. By 100 BC, Rome had a crisis. The birth rate was collapsing. Upper-class Romans, the very people who were supposed to lead Rome, were barely replacing themselves. Roman women, especially wealthy ones, were avoiding pregnancy. Some chose divorce. Some chose careers. Some chose simply freedom. Abortion was common. Child exposure, abandoning newborns, was legal and widespread. Now here's where it gets wild. The Roman government noticed, and they panicked. In 18 BC, Emperor Augustus passed the most aggressive pro-baby laws in history. The Lex Julia. If you were a Roman man and had no children, you could not inherit property. You lost political rights. If you were a woman with 3 children, you got legal independence. You could own property. You were free from your husband's control. Augustus himself lived by example. He had one daughter, Julia, and spent decades trying to marry her off to produce heirs. It didn't work. Julia was exiled for refusing to play her role. The laws were ignored by most Romans. Why didn't Romans obey? Because you can't legislate desire. You can't force a civilization to want something it no longer wants. Romans had discovered something dangerous: prosperity. And prosperity changed what people valued. They valued comfort over sacrifice. They valued pleasure over legacy. They valued the self over the future. Sound familiar? Because the same pattern is playing out right now in Japan, South Korea, Italy, and yes, the United States. Back to Rome. By 200 AD, the empire was struggling to fill its own army. So Rome did what desperate empires do: they hired outsiders, barbarian soldiers fighting for Roman gold. These soldiers had no loyalty to Rome. They didn't speak Latin. They didn't believe in Roman gods. They were just employees. Meanwhile, taxes were crushing the middle class. Farms were abandoned. Cities were emptying. Plagues hit a population too small and too malnourished to fight back. The barbarians who were supposed to defend Rome's borders started looking at those borders differently. In 376 AD, the Visigoths crossed the Danube not as invaders, as refugees. Rome let them in. 2 years later, those same Visigoths annihilated the Roman army at the Battle of Adrianople. Rome never truly recovered. The rot had come from inside. By 476 AD, the last Roman emperor was a boy, just 16 years old, and he was removed without even a fight. The Western Roman Empire, 800 years of history, ended not with a bang, but with a shrug. Historians call it demographic suicide. A civilization that simply chose not to continue. And the ones who replaced them, groups with strong family values, strong birth rates, strong community bonds. If this is hitting different, smash that like button. It helps more people find this story. Let's keep going. Now, let's talk about why this matters today. South Korea has the lowest birth rate ever recorded in human history, 0.7 to children per woman. Japan has 1.2 million more deaths than births every year. Ghost towns are spreading across the countryside. Italy, the land of Rome itself, has a birth rate below replacement. The Romans' descendants are making the same choice. These aren't coincidences. These are patterns. Prosperity, individualism, comfort, the same ingredients that dissolved Rome. Now, I'm not saying have children or don't have children. That's your life. I'm saying every civilization that forgot to reproduce eventually became a history lesson. Rome didn't fall from the outside. It hollowed out from the inside, and nobody stopped it because nobody saw it coming until it was too late. The question is, are we watching the same movie? Rome was not killed. Rome was abandoned slowly, quietly. By its own people. History doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme, and right now it's rhyming very loudly. If you want to understand the modern world, learn Rome, not the glory, the collapse. If this video made you think, subscribe. We go deep on the history they didn't teach you. Next video drops soon. See you there.